Podcast. This is episode 2, and I am Darian.
And I'm Mike. And today we're going to pick the week 1 matchups for everybody.
All 32 teams.
Yep, so let's get started. We've got Falcons and the Eagles playing tonight.
Football is back.
Yes, it is. Most of the roster has stayed pretty much the same between these two teams. Not a lot of turnover.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say, there may be some guys not playing and stuff like that, but for the most part, the rosters are pretty similar.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of overturn, I guess you'd say turnover, for either team roster-wise in the offseason, but there are a few significant things. For example, Philly still won't have Carson Wentz because they announced that Nick Foles will be starting. I'm not sure if Alshon Jeffrey's even going to play. I don't think he will.
He's not. He's ruled out.
Okay, so that's another thing that's going against them. And the good news is Jay Ajayi, with his foot injury, is actually not even on the injury report as of today, so they'll have him back. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if Philly is favored tonight, but I know that this is the first time in a while that I guess you'd say the person who last won the Super Bowl isn't expected to win their first game, their home opener. You know what I mean?
Right.
So who are you taking in this game? The first game, kickoff, NFL.
This whole thing for me comes down to which Nick do we get today? Today. Are we going to get last year's Nick Foles, or are we going to get the previous dumpster fire Nick Foles?
Well, preseason Nick Foles.
Preseason, right. I mean, preseason, previous seasons, depending on which season. So I think, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think I'm going to pick the Falcons for this one.
See, you're acting a little surprised at yourself, but I actually am taking Atlanta too. And the reason why is because I didn't even mention him yet, but Atlanta's. The one thing that Atlanta did that was their biggest move probably in the offseason was they drafted Calvin Ridley, who is going to make some noise, I think, this year. He's going to help Julio's game out by Julio having more opportunity because the defense won't just be able to pay attention to just Julio. They're going to have to watch both those guys this year. So I think if Steve Sarkisian can, have a better second year on as offensive coordinator for them, I think that it's going to really open some things up for Matt Ryan and that whole offense. And with the Eagles not at 100% health-wise, I think that they're going to have a disappointing home opener, and I think Atlanta's going to win that game. So we're both taking Atlanta for the first game. I don't think that's a crazy pick either. I think that's a smart pick because they're the healthier team, and they're not that different roster-wise in skill. I think they're both very, very talented rosters. So it's not like we're picking David versus Goliath here,
Yeah, well, just to let it be known, if Mr. Wentz was healthy, I would have been picking the Eagles, but he's not. So
I agree with that. I would also take Wentz, even if Alshon still wasn't going to be playing. If Carson Wentz was healthy, I would definitely take them at home for their home opener for sure. So so we're both taking Atlanta. So the next game we've got is Bills at Ravens on Sunday, the 9th. So it's going to be it's a pretty interesting game. So Nathan Peterman's been announced a starter for Buffalo, which is pretty crazy. Well, it's not so mind-boggling if you watch him in preseason because he actually earned the job, especially over A.J. McCarron, who earned getting traded to Oakland. But it's just crazy how far Nathan Peterman came from throwing 5 picks. He had one of the worst halves a quarterback has ever had last year when he started.
If you would have just taken the passes he threw to the Charger defenders, his rating would have been higher in that game.
Yeah, it was the worst performance I've ever seen personally in an NFL game. It was just hot garbage. It really was. It was so bad. But he's had a good offseason apparently. All the coaches have said that he's actually really coming along, and Sean McDermott loves him. I think Sean McDermott really wants him to succeed because you can tell he's kind of rooting for him even over Josh Allen. And I wouldn't say rooting for him, but I think he's invested a lot in the kid, and he wants to see him succeed. And I mean, he won the starting job, and he had a pretty good preseason. So this is going to be a close game because the Ravens, they weren't that good last year. They had a pretty down year. They got actually knocked out by the Bengals, and actually let this team, Andy Dalton, actually got the Bills in the playoffs by beating the Ravens last year in Week 17. So that was pretty funny. Earning a standing ovation from the Bills fans in this preseason. But I don't know. This is a pretty close matchup to me because I don't feel like either of these teams are too talented. But Baltimore may be a sleeper if things go, kind of their way. But I think, how do you feel about this game? Who do you think you're going to take?
I'm taking the Ravens.
Why?
Because I've seen Nathan Peterman when he gets nervous.
Well, when he plays,
and he's going to be plenty nervous when he starts playing against the Ravens. I just don't think that he's going to have enough time. They got a strong secondary. They've got a fairly decent defensive line. I just think he's going to be under a little bit of pressure and not be awesome.
Yeah, I definitely don't expect him to throw 5 picks in the first half again, for sure.
No, I don't think so.
I just don't know if they're talented enough. I think they're going to be. I honestly think Buffalo might be this year the worst team in the AFC, and I think it's going to start from the get-go. I think they're going to be pretty bad. So I think I'm going to take Baltimore too. Although I do think the game will be close. I don't think it'll be a blowout or anything. I would say something like 13-16. Like, I think it'll be really close and probably low scoring too. But I think Baltimore's going to take that one. So our next game is actually one that you were telling me was you're really interested in, which is Jacksonville at the Giants. So you want to talk about that game a little bit?
Yeah. So here we've got a team last year in the Giants that was not good. Nothing went right. Everything was terrible. The world was ending. And a team that not a lot of people really expected to do as well as they did in Jacksonville.
Right.
There's a few games that are like that this week, and so we got a team with high expectations going into a place that wasn't that good last year, but all of a sudden with healthy people and a nice draft is all of a sudden, I think they're a lot better than people are going to think they are, and that's going to be an interesting game. They got Odell back, they got Saquon Barkley, they got Eli. He's always pretty much there most of the time, but then they're going against Jacksonville. So offense, defense, and Blake Bortles who's he going to be this year?
Right.
I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting game.
No, I definitely agree. It is really interesting. It's a matchup where, like you said, it's a team with coming off of a AFC Championship appearance, which was high. So I think they've still got high expectations. And the Giants, who Eli had one of his worst statistical years ever last year. But I mean, it didn't help that, like you said, like the world was ending for that team last year. They had a really just a bozo head coach who's gone in Ben McAdoo, which I think they really. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'd never liked Ben McAdoo. I didn't think he was right for that team. I'm not sure he should be an NFL head coach at all anywhere from everything that we saw over the few seasons he was there.
And everybody was hurt. Right,
and like exactly, everybody was hurt. And this year they've got Odell Beckham back, and he's paid too, which helps him. He's back and he's in the building. He's ready to go. And they've got expatriate Nate Soldier at left tackle now, so that should be to strengthen their offensive line. I'm not a huge Nate Soldier fan, but I know that he's an upgrade over Eric Flowers, who I think was at their left tackle last year.
Yeah.
I think they moved him to right tackle. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's a big upgrade over Eric Flowers because he's not a good left tackle. He's just really not that great. So, Nate Soldier will help Eli because he got sacked a lot last year. Eli was getting hit a lot, especially for a guy that's getting up there in age. You don't want him to be taking that many hits. So
yeah, and it didn't help that he couldn't find anybody to throw to because they didn't have anybody to throw to because nobody could get open. So It compounded the problem. Terrible offensive line and terrible receiving because everybody's hurt. And what do you get? Quarterback getting drilled all the time.
And then like the second pick overall or whatever it was in the NFL draft. So Yeah, it's not good news. So who do you think who are you taking in this game? Who do you think's gonna win?
I'm going to shock the world. I'm going with the Giants.
You know what is interesting is before we started this, I've got my notes here, and I was gonna say that I believe the Jaguars, since they didn't have a lot of turnover, even though that they lost Marquise Lee, which was I guess his number one target now, Allen Robinson gone, but I'm I'm just not sold on Blake Bortles. I never will be, no matter what happens. I just can never ever be sold on him. So I don't think it's that surprising. And I'm actually going to take for the third pick in a row. I think we both took Atlanta. We both took Baltimore. I'm actually taking the Giants too because I think if Saquon Barkley plays, I think he's going to be good. Right away. I think he's one of those guys that as soon as he gets in the league, he's going to be good. And rookie running backs that are like high picks that actually pan out, they usually are immediately effective too. I mean, we saw Ezekiel Elliott be immediately effective. So his rookie year. So with Odell Beckham back and their defense healthy, and I think the Giants should win this one. Not comfortably, but I don't think it'll be in doubt for very long because I think Blake Bortles is going to show up in the Meadowlands pretty quickly, and not in a good way.
Yeah, that wouldn't terribly surprise me, to be honest. But anywho, let's go to the next game we're gonna pick from. So we got Tampa Bay going to New Orleans without famous Jameis.
Yep. Suspended for 3 games, right?
Yeah.
For some shenanigans with an Uber driver. Not good.
No, and I don't even really need to talk about this one a whole lot. I can if you would like to, but to me this is going to be a pretty clear-cut game. So Buccaneers going in the Saints strong team. They should not have lost the game last year to Minnesota.
Right. On a miracle play.
Yeah, I mean, that was just pure shenanigans by Marcus Williams. But, they're a really good team, and they improved in the draft. So, I mean, they're only going to get better. The Buccaneers drafted Vita Vea. I don't think even playing this week, so he's been missing practice. So I can't see any other choice with this one than New Orleans. New Orleans is going to take this one, and I think it's going to be pretty handily as well.
No, I agree with you. There isn't much to say about this one. I'm not sure it'll be a super interesting game in the first place. Partly because I just don't think watching Ryan Fitzpatrick is interesting. I had to do it for a few years when he was in my division and when he was a Jets quarterback. So he was also the Buffalo Bills quarterback. So he was actually in the division for 2 teams. But he's just not interesting to me. I don't think he's that good. He's fine. But yeah, I don't expect them to be competitive whatsoever with New Orleans in this one. So I'd say New Orleans pretty handily too. So probably by at least 2 touchdowns. I expect them to get smoked. So I would say New Orleans for sure. So I think the next game we've got is actually one of the most interesting 1:00 games on Sunday, and that's the Houston Texans at the New England Patriots. So how do you feel about that one?
Well, I'm not sure. Just looking at it, you would think that the Patriots would have a very good chance of winning by a fairly decent margin, but for some reason, I don't know. With it, it depends on who all's playing for Houston, right? And how well they really feel. They might be able to make it a game, and then I say that, and they might turn around and make it a really good game,
right?
So. They've got a few guys that are questionable, a couple receivers, and Kevin Johnson, one of the defensive backs. But if JJ plays and Deshaun's playing, if everybody's playing, you got to cover Mr. Hopkins. I don't know. I think the Patriots have got it. I think they're going to win by 10 or more.
Wow.
But I just don't know. 10? I just don't know.
No, that's interesting. 10. That would be a convincing win, I'd say, against the team that I think has the best chance, if they're all healthy, to win that division this year in the AFC South and the Houston Texans. I I just think if they were all healthy, I think they're the best and most talented roster out of those four. Even though I think they're all pretty good rosters. It, that's interesting. 10-point Patriots. So it's going to be hard because Deshaun Watson's coming off an ACL tear, and they've got J.J. Watt who hasn't played, over I think since the 2016 season. I want to say, it's been a long time, and he's coming back. They do have DeAndre Hopkins, who's very very good. He's been, I'd say he's been the most productive receiver in the NFL with the least amount of help from his quarterback since he's been in the league. And it's not even close because he's had guys like Case Keenum and Tom Savage and all these guys that are just not good. I mean, no shade to Case Keenum, but he's not, in my opinion, a franchise quarterback. So, like, DeAndre Hopkins is just out of this world, I think. And I don't think he gets enough credit either. I think it's because he's on the team he's on, but I think that's the case. It's going to be interesting because last year these two teams played too, and it was the same matchup in New England. And Deshaun Watson actually played well enough to beat New England in New England, but it took a 2-minute drill at the end of the game, and Tom Brady had to throw a touchdown to Brandon Cooks in the left end zone. I actually remember that vividly for New England to pull that one out because their defense was giving up so much. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be the best game at 1 o'clock. And, well, I'm not sure. San Francisco and Minnesota might be pretty good too. But I think New England will win it too because I expect their defense to be better. They're actually, their coordinator this year, since Matt Patricia's in Detroit now, is going to be the linebacker coach, Brian Flores, who he's actually, it's funny, he doesn't even have the title of defensive coordinator yet. Bill Belichick didn't want to give it to him because I guess he wants to make him, earn it or, trial by fire almost. But he will be calling defensive plays this year on the sideline there. And I think that they're going to have a step up. I think they're going to be better than they were last year. I think also people don't really talk about him because they didn't really saw him play last year. But Derek Rivers, their first round pick from last year, didn't play at all. So he's back. Trey Flowers should be healthy for week 1. So Patriots might surprise people with a little bit of a pass rush finally. And Brian Flores is supposed to be more aggressive than Patricia ever was. So I expect him to blitz a lot more and see if they can contain Watson, who's off the ACL tear. So I'm not sure if he's going to be super, super mobile. I didn't catch a lot of him in the preseason. Did you see him at all?
No.
Yeah, so I didn't see a lot of Watson in the preseason, so I'm not sure if he's looking mobile or not. But I think New England's got this too. I expect them. I mean, they won't have Julian Edelman there, but so they're really thin at the receiving core. But I mean, they've been thin there before, and they've been able to pull it out. So I don't see any reason why they can't. But I think this is going to be, aside from, I think this is probably going to be the closest game at 1 o'clock on Sunday is this game because I expect it to be a really good one. I do think if it was in Houston, I probably would take Houston, but I'm going to say New England because it's in Foxborough.
Yep, same pick as me, same reason as me, and because with the Texans coming back with all the injured guys, I'm not sure how everything's going to turn out when they got to return to game speed. So let's move on to the 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings.
Right. So this is, I can't wait for this game, honestly. I think it's going to be so interesting because we saw 5 games out of Jimmy G last year. He went undefeated, beat 3 playoff teams, although a little skewed because one of them was the Rams week 17 who played Sean Mannion and Todd Gurley didn't play, so they didn't beat the full strength Rams. But I just think, and they're also, their running back that they just paid a bunch of money, Jerick McKinnon, tore his ACL last Saturday, so he's out for the year. So that's a big hit to their offense. And you got on the other side of the ball, you got Kirk Cousins with the Minnesota Vikings, a fully guaranteed deal. He got paid. Most of that team's back the way it was last year. Mike Zimmer is just a really, really, really good coach, and I don't think people give him enough credit. He's one of probably right now the top 3 to 4 coaches in the league, I would say personally, if I had to pick. I can't wait for this game. I think this is going to be one of the best ones this week. Who do you have? What do you think about this matchup so far? Who do you got?
Boy.
It's a tough one for sure because anything's
It,
possible.
yeah, it is. It is a tough one. I always kind of give a little bit of an advantage to the home team because they're playing at home. Not necessarily some teams because their home crowd doesn't really seem all that interested in football. Sometimes
Looking
you
at
could say.
your Chargers.
That's right.
16 away games for the Chargers, pretty much. Just 16.
Yeah, exactly. So, but based on that, I mean, I get the Jimmy G hype, but I just don't think they've got the personnel to match up with the Vikings at this point.
No,
If
I
they're
agree.
missing Jerick McKinnon, their defense is tough. Their offense isn't terrible. They've got what I think might be a small upgrade in Kirk Cousins over Case. Don't call me Keenum. Yeah, that nickname made no sense, but it's still funny to me.
Was that his nickname? I never heard that.
No, that's my nickname for him.
Oh, okay. That's why it makes no sense.
Yeah. Nobody's ever heard that before because I just made it up. But I really think I'm picking the Vikings. I'm taking the Vikings, and I'm taking them by 4.
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. So a pretty close matchup actually. That's a pretty close final you got there. I mean, not final score, but by 4. That's not a convincing win. But I mean, we've seen games before where it's a lot further apart than the scoreboard reflects at the end too.
Yeah.
Which I could see like a garbage time Jimmy G touchdown drive when they were really down 11. But that's interesting. I'm taking Minnesota too. I mean, I think we've agreed on every single pick so far, but I think it would be cool if the Niners were good and if Jimmy G was as good as advertised and as good as I believe he is. So, but I just don't, like you said, personnel wise, roster wise, I just don't see any way they can overcome all the talent that Minnesota has if they play up to their potential in Minnesota. And I think Minnesota's, I think they're coming off of it was pure ecstasy when they beat New Orleans because they weren't really supposed to be there, and then next week at Philly last January in the playoffs they just they came back crashing down to earth. So I think they're going to try to right that wrong this year, and I expect Minnesota to go pretty far into the playoffs this year. So I'm going to take them. They're going to start out 1-0. So.
Yep, I agree with you. So what do we got next? We've got the Titans and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Do we have to pick this game? Can we? No, I'm just kidding.
You're not interested in the Mike Vrabel led Tennessee Titans? I think Mike Vrabel is going to be a good coach. I really do. He's from he's a Patriot great. He was on the Houston Texans staff for a while under Bill O'Brien, who I also think doesn't get enough credit as being a really good head coach. So I don't know. The Titans roster is getting better. It's still underwhelming in areas where you'd like to see growth, like skill position, because I don't view anyone, for example, in the receiving corps. Like, the receiver that they have that I'm the most scared of is Delaney Walker, who's like 38. You know what I mean? He's not really yeah. 38, but he's been in the league forever, and he's really, really good, but they don't have a lot of skill position players. And I don't know if Mariota can stay healthy for 16 games, which I know has no bearing on week 1, but it's an issue for that team. So I'm always a little reluctant to put a lot of stock into what Tennessee's going to do. It's going to be an interesting year for them. It's also going to be an interesting year for the Miami Dolphins because Adam Gase had a rough year last year, and Ryan Tannehill should be back week 1. And he should be under center. So I think it's time to see if Adam Gase is the real deal or not as a head coach. And it's also, if I'm upstairs in Miami, it's time to see if Ryan Tannehill is our guy or not, because this is the year where we need to see if he can take us to the next level, or if we need to start looking for a replacement quarterback. If I was running the team, this would be the year. So I would need to see a significant improvement. I don't know. this is close. I think I'm gonna take Miami here because I know I know Tennessee. I know Tennessee made the playoffs last year, but I feel like Miami has more in place that's not a lot of turnover from last year. Like Mike Vrabel coming in, we don't know what he's going to be. I think he'll be good, but we really don't know what kind of head coach he'll be. Um, I just think Miami. I think Adam Gase will be a good head coach. I'm not sure it'll be in Miami, but I don't hate Ryan Tannehill. I think he's serviceable. So I think that they'll pull out a close one here. I got them winning by probably 3.
Yeah, I wasn't laughing at your pick. I was laughing at the fact that somehow we've both rationalized without any conversation between each other who we were picking. We've talked about some of the games earlier in the week and who we were going to pick and why, just as some side conversations. We've only covered one of those games so far. No, we've covered 2 of those games in this podcast so far, and yet I'm picking the Dolphins for all the reasons you mentioned, and the fact that they've added some weapons.
They did
Marcus Mariota's a little shaky in the preseason, so I don't know what his deal is. So I don't need to go any further. I'm picking the Dolphins too, and it's crazy that that's happening.
No, I mean it's not crazy because Miami, honestly, every year they're pretty good at home. They're not unstoppable, but they're not a pushover either. So and they do have a pretty good crowd in Miami. So it's not one of the better ones, but it's I think they're really good at home. Not really good, but I think they're good at home. And I'm not sure what to expect from Tennessee, so I don't feel comfortable saying that I think they'll win a road game week 1 with a bunch of new stuff happening.
Right.
Overall,
it's just funny because if you lined up 10 quote unquote NFL insiders and had them pick this game, I'd bet 8 of them would probably pick
Tennessee.
Probably pick the Titans, yeah, and then here we are.
I mean, they were the playoff team last year, but I just think there was some context. I think Tannehill being back, I think that matters a lot, and so
do I.
We should mention that they did lose via I want to say trade. I believe that they traded Jarvis Landry to Cleveland. So, was it a trade or was it free agency?
It was free agency.
Oh, well then I'm wrong. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
But so they won't have him, but I just think that they're going to be. I think they're going to get a week 1 win. I'm not sure. I feel like Miami's probably like a 7-9 team this year, so they'll probably be on the outside looking in when it comes to January. But I think.
Well, here's some of the here's just briefly. Here's some of the things that they've got going for them weapon wise with Gase to deal with. Right, they got Kenyon Drake,
who's very good. I like him a lot.
Right, they got Kalen Ballage, who has potential. They got Frank Gore, who I don't know how he's like 56 years old or something, and still chugging out yards.
I think he is 56. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an accurate number. They got Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills, Danny Amendola. They picked up Albert Wilson.
I forgot they got Amendola too from New England. I forgot about that. That's a good pickup for sure.
Yep, they got AJ Derby and Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki is going to be no joke, I think, in a couple of years here, and that kid's got talent. So. I mean, they've got some weapons for Tannehill, and Tannehill's back, and then you turn around and the defense isn't terrible. Cameron Wake, Akeem Spence, Robert Quinn, Raekwon McMillan, Kiko Alonso. I mean, they've got some guys. They could Minka Fitzpatrick,
Minka Fitzpatrick's going to be, I think, very good. You got him as defensive rookie of the year. That's
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I have a feeling he's going to be doing a lot of slot coverage and dime package stuff, and he's going to wake some people up.
Like I said, I think he's going to be on some tight ends this year too. Like, watch out for him covering Gronk in the New England games this year. I think and I think that they play Green Bay too, so he should be on Jimmy Graham. I think he's going to be very good.
Yep. So I mean, I'm not hating on the Dolphins yet. Now, give me a few weeks of seeing what they're really going to do, and we'll find out. But they've got weapons, they've got talent on defense, they have allegedly a good coach. So let's see what happens.
Right, and I was going to talk about Adam Gase for a second, so I'm glad you brought that up right there at the end because I wouldn't say and I know what you mean because when you say allegedly a good coach, he's a good offensive coordinator. He really is. Like he's good. It's just is he a good head coach? So. Right. That's going to, like you said, that's going to be a difference. I'm not sure he is. So that's why I think they'll go like 8-8, 7-9. But if you, at the end of the year, because there's always a team or two that makes the playoffs that nobody expected, I think I really think Miami would not be a crazy pick for that. I don't think it'd be crazy at all because if things all it would take is things to go just a little bit their way, and they could go 4-2 in the division or 5-1 in the division. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because
we're spending a lot of time on a game that neither one of us wants to watch.
But
it's intriguing though, isn't it?
Well, Miami's intriguing.
The Titans could win by 30 and the Dolphins could win by 30. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Exactly, and now I might watch this game on. I'm definitely going to be paying attention to Red Zone for that game because I am like I don't care personally about either of those teams, and I don't want to I just don't trust either of them because they haven't really given us a reason to. But I do think Miami's an interesting thought experiment because I think that I don't think it's impossible for them to go 10-6, but I also don't think it's impossible for them to go 7-9, 6-10. So it's hard to gauge that team because we don't know what's going to happen. So we spent entirely way too much time on the Miami Dolphins for week 1. Let's go with Cincinnati at Indianapolis. So this game,
Bengals.
You got Bengals?
Yeah.
All right.
I've got Bengals.
I thought you were having having
a stroke or something.
Having a stroke and you were just shouting jungle cats at me. I was waiting for
Jaguars.
Yeah, lions. I was like, okay. Bengals. That's a good pick. I don't know. Cincinnati should be as good as they usually are because they're kind of middling of the road. They have their high points and they have their low points, but overall, we kind of know what to expect from them. But Andrew Luck coming back off that shoulder injury, he's looked okay in the preseason. He hasn't been spectacular. I know, he hasn't been spectacular, but if he is healthy, I personally think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be really good this year. And we'll see what Frank Reich is as the head coach. We'll see how he is as a head coach. But he was pretty good last year in Philadelphia. So when he was on that coaching staff. This is a tough game for me because I actually think these teams are more evenly matched than they look like, if that makes sense. But I think I'm going to take the Colts, and because of Andrew Luck. I'm probably going to regret that, but I think I'm taking the Colts.
We finally picked different teams.
I know, and it only took us, 10 games? How many was that?
9.
9 games. It only took us 9 games, which I can't believe we didn't argue more than that. But I'm honestly, I just think if he's healthy, Andrew Luck, I think he's not easy to put down. I think he's easy, or I think he's really difficult to keep from out of the end zone. He scores a lot of points. He's just so good. So, and they still got T.Y. Hilton there. They did.
Yeah, here's where my thought process is real quick, and then we'll go ahead and I'll lead us into the next one. But here's my thought process. So Andrew Luck's going to have to face Carlos Dunlap, Geno Atkins, Michael Johnson, Vontaze Burfict, William Jackson, Drake Kirkpatrick. There's some decent guys on defense there, and then on the other side, the Colts are going to have to face Andy, I'm just average Dalton, Joe Mixon, AJ Green, Tyler Eifert, Tyler Boyd. Somebody's got to cover John Ross if he shows up. They've got some. I don't know. I don't know. I think this is a toss-up game, but I'm going with Cincinnati because Andy Dalton's shoulder hasn't fallen off yet.
Right, and I get your pick. I'm not. I don't think it's crazy. I think I would be surprised if Cincinnati wasn't favored in this game, honestly, because I think that they're the smarter pick. I just think we know what they are, but we're not entirely sure what the Colts are with a healthy Andrew Luck anymore because we haven't seen him since the 2016 NFL season. So when he was there, they were up and down because, it's not a great roster and they've had some injury issues too. So I just think they're primed for a little a surprise week 1 where they catch a team that wasn't really expecting it. I feel like Cincinnati is going into this game not 100% locked in because they not even that, but they might be overlooking the Colts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Andrew Luck might be able to take advantage of that and just say, well, here's 30 points on you.
Hey, could happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go to a couple AFC North teams here. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm really I might turn off Red Zone just to watch this game.
Really?
At least for the first quarter, just to see what happens.
With Tyrod Taylor?
It's Tyrod Taylor. Thank you.
Oh yes, Tyrod. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm telling you,
So hey, if we shorten his name to Ty, do I have to call him Tuh or is it Ty?
That's a good question. I do not have the answer for that.
Because it's just Ty. It's not Tuh.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I'm just super interested by that because I never knew for years. Because a little backstory here for people who may not know, the Cleveland Browns were on Hard Knocks this year on HBO, and he actually was telling people in the media that it's actually Tyrod, not Tyrod Taylor. So it's just a little interesting tidbit for him. So sorry, continue.
Oh no, that's fine. And he also made sure to make a note to all the people that only his mom calls him Ty.
Right.
He goes, nobody but my mama calls me Ty. So, anyways, these guys, I don't know. I don't know, right? On paper, they've got a lot of talent.
Yes, they do.
But I've had experience with Hugh Jackson as a head coach in Cleveland and in Oakland, and you never know what you're going to get. He does brilliant things at one time, and then he does what the hell are you thinking at another time. So
right.
I don't know, but on paper they've got talent on offense, dude. I'm telling you, Tyrod Taylor. I'll go with what everybody says. Tyrod Taylor is not a terrible quarterback.
He's not.
He's not Tom Brady. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to go march down the field 6 drives in a row when your defense gives up points and you need somebody to score. But the dude does not turn the ball over.
He doesn't.
And for me, that is like a key thing. Don't turn the ball over. Running back, they got Carlos Hyde, not terrible. Nick Chubb, not terrible. Duke Johnson, not terrible, right? Receiver, Jarvis Landry.
Yep.
Right? Antonio Callaway, rookie, good, fast,
he's
not
looking,
suspended yet.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we can keep it that way. I know it's.
That's why I'm saying week 1's different, right? They got Josh Gordon on. Everybody knows he hasn't been around for a while, but
he's coming off that.
It's Josh Gordon.
He's so good. He's so good.
It's
but
Josh
he's coming
Gordon,
off that hamstring too. I'm not sure if he's practicing right now, but that's gonna be interesting because I'm not sure he'll play week 1. I think they said he's on track to, but he may not be there against Pittsburgh.
He practiced on Monday, and it says he had no ill effects from Monday, and without anything
awesome.
that he won't be in the starting lineup. But that doesn't really mean anything because
right.
You're always going to run out more than 2 receivers in a game. So I expect him to play on Monday. They still got Rashard Higgins. They got David Njoku,
who's really good. I think he's going to have a big year. By the way, Go ahead. No, go ahead. I just think David Njoku's going to have a big year with Tyrod or Baker Mayfield, whoever ends up playing more games for them, because I don't know. But I think Njoku's going to have a huge year for it.
I think he's getting a huge amount of help from Darren Fells, right? I was watching, I don't know if you've been watching Hard Knocks, but I was watching it, and he spent a lot of time, Darren Fells spent a lot of time after practice showing how to get more leverage blocking and, he was doing it with Cajuste, but he was still doing it with the other tight ends too, because he's been around a while. He's known to be a fairly decent blocking tight end. He knows the idea behind how to do it and all that, and so
right.
That's good. Their big problem is left tackle. They got a left guard playing left tackle. If you look at their depth chart, they don't even list a first or second string left tackle. They list a third string left tackle.
Right.
But it's going to be Joel Bitonio, so whatever. And then defense, they've got some guys on defense that can play too. So I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. It sounds like you might be leaning towards Cleveland. Let's talk about Pittsburgh real quick, though. Before we do our picks for this one, because this is interesting, and I let's hold off on that for a minute. So 9 a.m. meetings Wednesday as of today. 9 a.m. meetings for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Le'Veon Bell was not there, so he's still not with the team, and it seems like he honestly is in danger of actually missing real games.
And you know what? For the first time in a few years, I can say this with some relative confidence. I don't really think Pittsburgh cares.
Oh,
James Conner's been showing out, dude.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. I don't think they care at all either. I think they've drawn a line in the sand with whatever their last offer to him was, and they basically said, "Look, man, this is it. This is all we're willing to give you right now. You've had some injury issues. You've had some off the field issues and suspensions. This is really all where we feel comfortable investing in you right now. And he wants to be paid like the man, which, he is the man. I mean, he's awesome. Le'Veon Bell as a player when he's on the field and healthy and not in trouble is incredible. But that's not 100% of the time because he's not always on the field, either not hurt or not in trouble. So I don't really blame Pittsburgh. And like you said, Connor's been doing really, really well in preseason. He was pretty good last year when he played in spurts. I agree with you. I don't think they care either. I'll tell you right now, I don't know what's going to happen if we'll be doing this podcast next year, but if we do, it'd be interesting to revisit it because I don't know. I don't expect Le'Veon Bell to be on the team next year, one way or another.
I don't either.
Yeah, so exactly. So I don't know. I'm not sure what to do.
I wouldn't be surprised if he holds out till just before week 10, shows up so that he can accrue his year of service, and then next year he bounces for a big payday somewhere.
Right.
Because somebody's going to pay him.
Right. I'm not sure who runs the Pro Football Talk Twitter. I think it's Mike Florio. I'm pretty sure it is. But I think this morning he actually tweeted that what did he say? I'm trying to remember. I don't have it in front of me. I'm pretty sure he tweeted something up basically like if Le'Veon Bell was smart and he didn't want to play this week, what he would do is show up like Friday or Thursday.
I saw that too.
Yeah, get his like $890K or something like that. And and then obviously Pittsburgh wouldn't play him because it's short notice. So that's what he was saying. But
okay, who you got?
Oh man,
we got to make this pick. Keep in mind, last year the Steelers opened up at the Browns and won by 3.
Oh man, this is tough for me.
I've already written my pick down.
I know
so
what
your
pick is.
I've already committed to mine.
I already know and you haven't told me, but I know what your pick is. I'm trying to decide if I want to agree with you or if I want to. I am going to take Pittsburgh because I don't trust Hugh Jackson to be able to be successful as an NFL head coach. I think they'll win more games combined than they did the last 2 years, which would be 2. That's all they'd have to get to, and I don't think they'll be that bad. I think Cleveland will win 5 or 6, 7 games. Honestly, I think they'll be okay this year. And I know that they've actually in the past, historically, in Cleveland, given Pittsburgh a little bit of trouble, and in Pittsburgh, mid-year and end of the year, they've been a little frisky. Even without Lev Bell, James Conner, like you said, they like what they have getting out of him, so it's not like they're going to be hurting at running back necessarily. They'll be able to get by. I'm taking Pittsburgh. I think it'll be close too. I think it'll be less than. I think they'll win by probably 6. So.
Yeah, it's not like they're running me out there at running back with my old ass. Oh, sorry.
Exactly.
So let's move on to the AFC best.
You didn't tell me your pick.
Oh, the Browns.
I knew it. See. I didn't know if I wanted to commit to that with you or if I wanted to leave you on that island, but I knew you were picking Cleveland.
If this game was week 10, Steelers at Browns, I wouldn't commit to it yet. Well, I can't say because I wouldn't have seen the first 9 weeks yet. But week 1, if you're going to try to beat a division foe, right, with a lot of new turnover,
right.
Week 1 at home is the time to pull it off. And like I said,
I agree.
Steelers
completely.
only got them last year by 3. So now that they've actually got a real quarterback and not Deshaun Kaiser. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Green Bay fans are not going to enjoy that. But I don't think you're wrong. I'm not. I didn't like Kaiser, so
they're drunk on beer cheese anyway, so they're fine.
So
let's move on. Yeah, let's move on to the AFC best here.
AFC best.
Sorry.
A bunch of 7 and 9 teams, huh?
Yeah. Chiefs and Chargers.
All right, Kansas City and LAC. Let's see. I want you to take this one. How do you feel about Kansas City and the Chargers?
Well, I have a saying. Chargers going to charge because they have probably got to be the most unlucky injury team in the history of football. And I don't know what it is.
The last few years, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I thought at first it was the water, but they moved to LA, so it's obviously not the water.
It's the same coast, man. You never know.
It's true. All that water comes from Colorado. So, No, I don't know. The thing is, with Phillip Rivers, you can never really count him out unless he's got nobody to throw to. He's got guys to throw to.
Oh, he's got a lot of weapons. He's got Mike Williams, Keenan
yeah.
Allen. They just re-signed Antonio Gates.
Yeah, and
he's in the red zone. He's someone to throw to.
He's about 56 too, but yeah, I mean, he's a big dude and he knows how to block out and get the ball. So
yeah,
so that's not terrible. And then the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs lost a few guys. They lost some guys here and there, some guys on offense, some guys on defense. They lost Marcus Peters. They lost Albert Wilson. Got rid of Sharkandrick West.
Alex Smith.
And then they got Mr. Patrick Mahomes, right? So, in my personal opinion, I think, and this is going to sound a little ridiculous, but just follow me for a second. I think the fact that the Chargers have kind of a frenetic pass rush, I think that might play into Mahomes' favor a little bit. And even though I think the Chargers should win this game, I think that the Chargers, they have a great pass rush, the Chargers do, but I don't know if they're disciplined enough to stay in their lane because, you used to have to worry about Alex Smith, who, although he was mobile, he's not, it's not like you're rushing, Patrick Mahomes or Mike Vick or, any of those guys that truly can escape the pocket and outrun you at the same time. Alex Smith wasn't likely to outrun you. He would just elude you long enough to do something. I think that might cause a problem but I haven't seen a lot of the Chargers, preseason, if, what they've done as far as scheme changes or anything. So it'll be kind of tough to pick this game. I think these two teams could easily win 10, 11, 12 games, but I could also see them being 6 and 10. I mean, the AFC West this year is going to be a mess. It's really going to be a mess because all four teams have had some serious changes, and who knows what's going to happen with them.
It's going to be one of the most interesting divisions, just from a standpoint of it might be one of the most even
or uninteresting.
Right, exactly. I mean, if they're all beating each other up, then maybe it's not interesting at all. But I personally think it'll be an interesting division. This is an interesting game to me because I like Phillip Rivers. I'm a Charger. I'm not a Charger fan. I almost said I was a Charger fan, but I'm actually not. That would be hell probably because it's just like you said, they're one of the worst cursed teams, at least injury wise. I love Keenan Allen. I think he's just incredible. I think he's underrated, but I don't know how. I mean, it's like maybe it's because people don't watch a lot of Charger games because they're not like a national televised team that often. But Keenan Allen is really, 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 really good. And like you said, that's gonna be interesting by the way, the Patrick Mahomes, whether or not like Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa are gonna be able to contain him, or if they're gonna like you said, stay in their lanes, or if they're gonna come off the edges or inside the gaps and just is he gonna escape or is he gonna get drilled a bunch? Is he gonna? Because I mean, I can see this game coming down to honestly, which quarterback takes more sacks? Honestly.
Yeah, or who's got the ball last?
Exactly.
Doesn't get sacked.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree.
100%. So, I think the Chiefs, they've got the better coach going for them because I'm not sure really what Anthony Lynn was. They should have went 4-0 the first 4 weeks last year, and they ended up 0-4, and it was because of bad coaching and no kicker. So, I don't know what the Chargers are. I don't know what Anthony Lynn is, but if they can put together any sort of just stable, any stability there, I think that the Chargers are going to be really good this year. And I'm not sure if you've seen this around the football ether or not, but a lot of people, quote unquote experts, are actually picking the Chargers as their AFC Super Bowl team this year. It's becoming a more and more popular pick, believe it or not. So there's some expectations for Phillip Rivers and Anthony Lynn and the Chargers this year, but I'm not sure. I think.
What do you think?
I think the Chargers are going to be really good, but I am afraid that Anthony Lynn might not be good. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I think they're clearly an incredibly talented roster on, I think, both sides of the ball, personally. But if you don't have anyone directing you in a way that you can be successful with your talent, then it doesn't always work. And the Chargers are a team where I feel like they do need the direction because they've been talented for a long time and they've never put it together. And I think that's because they've never had anyone there to direct the ship to where it needs to go without it crashing. So
who you picking?
I'm taking Kansas City in this one.
Oh.
And I think the Chargers are going to make the playoffs. I want to say that. I do. But I just think Kansas City's better coached. And I think what you said about Patrick Mahomes and the Chargers pass rush, I actually believe that a lot. And I think it's going to go poorly for LA that in week 1. I think they're going to get killed by him running out of the pocket and being shifty. So I think there'll be an overreaction to Patrick Mahomes after week 1 also. I think he'll probably throw a touchdown and run for a touchdown, and they'll probably have either a defensive touchdown or another rushing touchdown. But I think that people will overreact to Patrick Mahomes because I don't expect the Chiefs to make the playoffs this year. I don't think they'll be that good, but I just feel like this feels like a game where we only saw him week 17 last year, meaning Mahomes. So they might be caught a little off guard by him, and he might make him pay this week. So I think Kansas City in a really close one, probably by 3 or 4.
I got the Chargers over Andy. What's the clock read?
What's the clock? Yeah, man, that's just
I'm going with Chargers coach, because they haven't. Everybody's not hurt yet.
Well, so they have some guys hurt. I mean, Hunter Henry.
No, I know. I know Hunter Henry. There's a few guys that have gotten hurt. I know that, but they haven't gotten everybody hurt yet. So right now they still have enough guys. I think they can take the Chiefs. And then week 5 we'll revisit that and see if they've still got anybody left to play.
Right. And
besides,
sorry, one last thing I do want to say is I think it'll be a close game, but I also think it's going to be a high-scoring game, meaning probably 24-27, maybe 27-30, something like that. But I do think one thing that needs to be said is the Kansas City Chiefs defense that we've known in the past is not there anymore. They don't look good this year so far defensively, so that could be one thing that bites them. So if there's a reason why they lose on Sunday, I would say that it's because Phillip Rivers torches them. So, now I'm kind of leaning towards LA. I'm going to take LA.
You changed your pick on me.
I did because that's the only time I'll do that. But I forgot about how bad they. Huh?
It's a tough game to pick.
It is. And
it really is.
I forgot about how bad their defense is going to be this year, and I think it's going to be very bad. I really do. So I'm going to take LA in that one because I don't know. I just think they're a better roster. Even if they're not as well coached, they should at home. Even though it's not really home because it's the Chargers. So I think the Chargers are going to win week 1 because I had them winning the division. So what better way to start than by beating a division opponent? You know what I mean?
Seahawks at Broncos.
Who do you have for this one?
I'm taking the Seahawks.
Not with conviction, though. You're not.
Not with conviction. This one's a coin toss. I think Case Keenum's fine. I think a lot of the stuff the Broncos have got going on is fine. I think the Seahawks are significantly better coached. I
agree with that.
Regardless of whether ET3 plays or not, I think the Seahawks play more cohesively as a unit on offense and defense. Everybody knows what they're trying to do, whereas the Broncos, to me, always seem like they're not entirely sure where they're supposed to be all the time. Now, that may change, but just based on what I know, even though I think at the end of the year, I think the Broncos will have a better record than the Seahawks. I really do.
Right.
But at this early stage of the game, I would rather take a team that generally knows what's going on and what they're doing and gets the whole concept of offense and defense and what they're trying to do versus, I just said something and now I'm going to shoot myself in the foot.
Right.
That's okay. We're still taking the Seahawks because I think they're going to be a better coach team with the exception of one particular coach, but I won't get into that.
Who is it? I want to know. I think I already know. Go ahead.
Ken Norton Jr.
Yeah. Yep. I knew that was coming.
Yeah, but luckily Pete Carroll's a defensive coach, and so it's pretty much his defensive system and not
right.
not the coach,
right.
Not the defensive coordinator. So I still think he'll just be telling K&J what to call, and they'll be fine. I just think the concepts will be the same or similar enough that everybody that's on the defense and the offense already knows what they're doing, so they're not learning a whole lot of new stuff. Whereas the Broncos have got a new quarterback. They lost Aqib Talib, which I wish. Never mind. I think the Seahawks have a better shot. I think it'll be a close game. Would not be surprised if the Broncos won. Hope they don't, but I'm going with the Seahawks. And I'm going to just be quiet there because
I'm taking Denver, and the reason why is because it's in Denver, and that's really it. Because if it was in Seattle, I would take Seattle, and here's why. Earl Thomas, actually, as of recording this Wednesday, September 5th, he is reporting to the team. He's ending his holdout. Will he be on the team, or will he be traded to, apparently, the Cowboys, who offered, what did they offer today?
They got up to a second round. They got up to second round. Seahawks said no, and they said, okay, never mind then.
Okay, so sounds like he'll probably be on the roster in Seattle, at least for week 1, and he should be playing if he's healthy. But they lost Cam Chancellor. They lost Richard Sherman. They lost a couple other guys. Like, their offensive line is shaky at best still. So is Denver's, so, But I just think this game is going to be who's louder at home, and Denver and home crowd. I think this is going to be a game where the home crowd really helps, because how I view this game is Russell Wilson versus that Bronco defense. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking because I think the Seattle Seahawks defense as it currently stands versus the Broncos offense as it currently stands, almost probably a wash. Like, they'll probably just be going back and forth, like one touchdown and then one stop and like a turnover or something. I think it'll be pretty even. But I think if Russell Wilson can get the better of Denver, that's what it's going to take to beat Denver in Denver. I'm just not sure that Bradley Chubb, the rookie out of NC State, and Von Miller on opposite ends are going to let that happen. And I know they lost Aqib Talib, but they still got Bradley Roby, right?
Yep.
And they've got some guys there. So I think that defense in Denver is going to kind of get back to their own ways, because they weren't their normal Denver Bronco defense that we've come to know over the past few years last year. And I think it's partly because however long it took through the season, they were like, what's the point? They're always on the field. And they were just constantly on the field because they had no quarterback last year. And Case Keenum isn't great. Personally, I'm not a fan, but he's way better than anything they had last year for sure. And I think he can be as good as he was last year, this year. I'm not sure the team will have the same result because they obviously had a much better roster surrounding him in Minnesota than they do in Denver on both sides of the ball. But I think they'll be able to stay on the field longer than they could at all last year on offense in Denver, and I think it'll make the difference. So I bet you this game's really low scoring. Like, I want to say something like 13-10. I think it's going to be a very boring game, and I think Denver's going to win by 3 to 6 points, but I think it's because of the defense. I really do. And Russell Wilson is great. He's awesome. I don't think the Seahawks are going to be that good this year anyway, because I don't like their roster in general. But I just think that defense in Denver is going to get back to what we've come to know them to be in the last several seasons. So I'm taking Denver.
Okay, I got you down for Denver.
Yep.
And now we're going to move along to the Cowboys and the Panthers. Cowboys and the Panthers is going to be another strange game. This is not the week to play Pick'em if you want to play Pick'em, by the way. This whole week is a mess.
It's a tough week. It's a bunch of games where it really could go either way. There's not any.
There's lots of potential for both teams playing against all the other, every team
right.
playing against another team. They both have a lot of potential to be significantly better or significantly worse or the same, and you have no idea which it's going to be.
Yeah, I completely agree. So on our last podcast, we talked about MVP. So I'm gonna make this short and sweet because I know I've been rambling about some other games, especially in Miami going to the playoffs. That was I know I kind of went on the left field there for a minute, but I got caught up in the whole Tannehill's back and Adam Gase might be a good thing. Um, I've got Cam Newton as MVP this year, and I have them destroying Dallas by like probably 10 points at least, maybe 14. I think Dallas is going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. I think like 3-13 sounds about right. I just don't like Dak Prescott. Their offensive line will not be healthy there, at least to start. They're not gonna have Travis Friedrich or I want to say Zach Martin. Is he the one that's out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that thing is not gonna be what people expect it to be. Ezekiel Elliott still might be really good, like even without those guys healthy. Although he may just be getting crushed right at the line too. So that remains to be seen. But I think Carolina with a pretty good roster. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to have a better sophomore year than he had last year. I do expect Cam Newton to start off with a bang for his soon-to-be 2018 MVP campaign because that's who I've got, and I think he's going to be really good this year. I think they're going to beat up on Dallas. So
I'm picking Dallas.
You make me feel like I'm talking way too much when you're like,
No,
here's
I'm
my
just
pick.
sitting here, and I'm just pondering, am I taking, am I, t- no, I'm taking Dallas. Because, I mean, if I'm Dallas, this is all I do. I just run some more, bootleg, a little RPO, toss the ball over the shoulder to whoever feels like catching it and run, and then, I don't know. I don't see the Panthers scoring a lot of points. If I think it's going to be, I mean, I don't want to call it. I'd say somewhere along the lines like 17-10, Dallas.
Really?
And that pains me. That pains me to say, but yeah, that's what I'm going with. It's just way too hard to pick between two teams that you don't really know what's going to happen. You got a bunch of new guys from both sides of the ball on both teams, injuries, all kinds of stuff happening, and I just think that I trust Ezekiel Elliott more than I trust the offense of the Panthers. So that's who I'm picking, and I'm sticking to it.
That's totally sound. If they had a healthy offensive line, I'd actually probably be on your side, even if I do think Cam Newton's going to win MVP this year. But I'm not sure what they're going to get out of that line, so I don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? If I thought they were going to be a fully healthy rushing attack with that whole line, then I probably would take Dallas, but they're not. So I just don't know what that means for that team already, So,
Yep.
But yeah, so at least we're on the back half of the schedule we're starting to disagree more because
exactly.
We hit about.
And I'm surprised we didn't disagree more. There's a lot of games that are coin tosses, and for all the coin toss games, we pretty much picked everybody the same through the first half of the schedule. So
Right.
But let's try this one. This will be another interesting one, right?
Yep.
Redskins at the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Right? So we got Sam, I hope I make it through 4 games, Bradford. and Alex, I'm just a game manager, but better quarterback than most of the quarterbacks in the NFL, Smith.
Put some respect on Alex Smith for me. Thank you.
I'm telling you, dude, I'm
so good.
I'm gonna tell hold on, I gotta tell everybody right now. I am a fan of a particular team that is a rival of his former team, and I still say the dude can ball. He's a baller. So I don't know. I don't know whatever Kansas City was thinking, but whatever.
I don't know. Maybe they want a guy on a rookie deal,
Well, that's the way to win, Chicago.
So maybe
to get Trubisky to play halfway decent,
or Rams,
or Rams, or Eagles,
exactly,
right?
Eagles. So I mean, maybe it's a smart move, honestly, but
I never know. But anyways, so hold on. Let me tell you my brief thoughts on this one. So
go ahead.
The Redskins. I don't watch a lot of NFC East stuff, to be honest with you.
Which is crazy because it's always on.
Yeah,
that's why I don't watch it. To me, it's one of the least interesting divisions to watch. I don't know why. I just don't like watching the NFC East at all. I just don't.
Well, yeah, I see, and I get that. And the funny thing is that division is just like the division that I do watch, where you never know what the hell's going to happen.
Right. No, completely.
And so I can't miss a game in my division, but I can't seem to watch the NFC East for whatever reason.
Right.
But I think it's because I don't like Eli Manning, even though he's good and I respect him. He looks funny. Anyways, so you got the Redskins at the Cardinals, right? I don't know what in the world is going to happen in this game. I really don't. I mean, if Sam Bradford plays the whole game, okay, they've got DJ back.
Right, David Johnson coming back off that wrist injury, and he should be
right.
He should be what he is.
Yep, he's good to go. And then we've got Sam Bradford, who, if he's not broken, is above average. I'm not saying he's top 5 quarterback or anything, but he's above average. You got Larry Fitzgerald.
Yep, got a new head coach too. Should be said that Bruce Arians is out. He's retired.
Yep, got Christian Kirk, guy who's supposed to catch a lot of balls for him and take some pressure off of Larry Fitzgerald. You got some interesting mix at tight end and whatnot. The line's not terrible. The offensive line's not terrible. So I don't know what we're going to get on offense. It should be, if I was to guess, middling, somewhere between 12th and 18th somewhere. It's not going to be terrible, but I don't think it's going to be, anything to write home about.
Right.
The big question is, so you got Chandler Jones on one side on the defense, right, on one end.
Yep.
And on the other end, you got Robert Nkemdiche.
Yep.
Now, is Robert Nkemdiche going to show up finally?
That remains to be seen.
Right? So then you got Marcus Golden and Corey Peters. So you've got 4 guys in the front that, in theory, should not be terrible.
It should be rough for defense for opposing quarterbacks, honestly, because
right. Well, and then look at the linebacking core. Right? You got Hassan Reddick. You got Deion Buchanan, Josh Bynes.
Yep.
And then in the corners, you got Jamar Taylor,
who I like a lot.
Yeah, and Mr. Patrick Peterson, who's no slouch.
No, they did lose. They lost Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, but they got Budda Baker and Antoine Bethea.
Exactly, and
they've got guys on defense. They've got guys on offense, and yet a lot of the pundits are predicting them to win like 4 games this year, and I'm kind of like, well, I don't really see that. You've got a quality of, top 5 running back if he's healthy. You got a quarterback who's not terrible. You got another guy you drafted who seems to be coming along, fairly decently. And maybe in the middle of the season, if Sam does break down, you got, some quality there. You got receiver. Larry Fitzgerald if Larry Fitzgerald could be like 77 years old, stumble out on the field with a cane and still get 100 catches and 1,000 yards.
Right.
I mean, the dude is not fast. He's not big. He's not anything, but he just gets open all the time. So, I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Arizona. A lot of people are predicting them to not be great, and for some reason, they're winning this game. They're going to win this game.
So I really like Alex Smith, as we've already talked about.
I do too.
I think Jay Gruden is actually a pretty good coach. I don't hate the roster in Washington. That all being said, Arizona will win this game. And the reason why I'm saying that is because everything that you just said, they're going to lean heavily on David Johnson. Sam Bradford will be able to distribute the ball to, all the receivers there, especially Larry Fitzgerald, their tight ends. I think Larry Fitzgerald is going to seem ageless again this year. I don't think it's going to catch up to him yet. I think he's just going to seem, it's going to be as seamless for him as it's been his whole career. And I just want to say one other thing, and then I'll keep this short and sweet, because I don't think this is going to be like, I think it's going to be a good game, but I'm not sure it's going to be, I think it'll be close. But I just wanted to say, the Arizona Cardinals, David Johnson missed 15 games last year, right?
Yep.
Okay. They went 8-8 anyway, and they went 8-8 with these 3 quarterbacks, who I'm pretty sure all play. Yeah, no, listen, this is crazy. If you actually think about this is crazy. They went 8-8 with 1 game out of David Johnson, their best player by far, and it isn't even close. And they had Matt Barkley, Blaine Gabbert, and Drew Stanton play games. They all played games. They all started games.
Don't be knocking on Blaine Gabbert.
I'm not. He even looked okay in San Francisco a couple years ago. I'm not knocking Blaine Gabbert. I'm just saying that they had 3 different quarterbacks all play games, and none of those quarterbacks are established, considered really, really good. And now they've got 2 quarterbacks that should be pretty good, and So they've got a good situation going anyway, because even if Sam Bradford does get hurt, I'm not sure Josh Rosen won't come in and be better. So
Yeah, I agree. I think the only downside of Josh Rosen right this second is that it's still new to him.
exactly.
I mean, I think if Bradford makes it through the first 6 to 8 weeks and Rosen keeps going along, progressing like he is, I don't think. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of drop off because I'm telling you, and you know that I know this, and it drives you absolutely insane because you think I'm nuts. But Sam Bradford is a good quarterback.
I don't
He's
think
like
he's
the
bad.
epitome of a glass house. I mean, the dude is broken all the time.
Yeah,
When he plays, he's good. The
right,
problem is he never plays.
right. And I'm not
So
look. I don't. I just think, okay, all I'm going to say about Sam Bradford is, because you and I have had this conversation 100 times in the past, I think he's got apologists that let him slide with the fact that he's done way less than any other first overall pick quarterback has. Not any other, that's not true, but than a lot of them have.
I was
And
gonna say, don't make me pull out the Jamarcus Russell card.
or the Ryan Leaf thing, or
Or the Ryan Leaf card. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of cards I can pull out.
No.
I'm just saying that when he does play, he's really good. His problem is he doesn't play.
No, and I totally get where you're coming from, and that's the caveat to that whole team. If Josh Rosen isn't ready, if they need him to be, is
right. If Sam Bradford gets hurt week 1, the Cardinals are going to lose. You know, I can't say that because I didn't look at their schedule for the next 6 weeks. But if for the next 5 games, they'll probably lose 3 or 4 of those games and pull a couple out because I'm sure they'll play somebody terrible.
Right. Just because Rosen will have to get his feet under him, you know.
Right. Exactly.
But I actually
who are you picking?
Oh,
you
Arizona.
Pick the Cardinals.
I told you. I said the Cardinals.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game too. Like, I have them winning by maybe 3-6, but because I think
that's going to be a fun game to watch.
I
really do because both teams. I think it's going to be a struggle. I don't think it's even really going to be a defensive or offensive struggle. I think it's going to fit somewhere in the 17-24, 21-27, 21-24, somewhere around in there. There will be points scored.
That's the game I'm watching at 4:25 on Fox. That's the game I'll be watching. So
yeah, me too. I'm not watching. Yeah, I won't say anything, but no, I'm not watching any other games. That's at 4:30. I'm watching that game.
Yeah, it's just the most interesting one to me. I mean, Chiefs Chargers at 4 is interesting too.
Boo.
but I want to see how Arizona looks, because I honestly think if we're sitting at the end of the year, because there's always teams that make the playoffs every year that nobody expected.
Yep.
Arizona, it's going to be hard because they're in the NFC, but it's not impossible for them to make a wild card. I don't think they'll win the division because the Rams are going to be really good again, I think. But Arizona
that we're gonna find out about that they had quite a bit of turnover with a bunch of new guys, and that we'll get to that in a couple picks from now, because I got some things to say about their game coming up. But
right.
But okay, so yes, I agree. I think that's going to be a good game. That is going to be the game I watch.
Cardinals by 6.
Yeah, I think it's Cardinals by less than a touchdown, unless Mr. Smith gets the ball with more than a minute and a half to go.
Then Alex Smith by 1. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so that's going to be a tough game, but I think the Cardinals got it by less than a touchdown as well.
Right, and I think it'll be a good game, but I do think Arizona is going to win 9 to 10 games this year, and they might still be on the outside looking in, because you might need to be 11-5 to make the playoffs in the NFC this year.
But I could also see him, like I said, if the wrong things happen at the wrong time, I could see him winning 6 games.
Right, exactly.
So I mean, they've got a lot of talent, but it's really it all comes down to how long they get some stability at quarterback before Rosen gets up to speed and
right. So and the new head coach, so it's going to be interesting.
Yep.
So,
Bears and Packers.
Yeah, Sunday Night Football. I cannot wait for this game. I have no personal stake in either team.
Nope.
I just cannot wait. Oh my God, this is going to be such a good Sunday Night Football game. I can't wait to hear Chris Collinsworth go, I don't know.
That is a guy.
I don't know. But it's going to finally mean that football is back. It'll have been on all day, but once I hear Chris Collinsworth just say, I don't know. This is such a good matchup, because Chicago's season is going to depend on 2 things. Matt Nagy or Nagy, no one knows. Just like Tyrod, no one knows.
I think it's Nagy.
Just like tomato, nobody knows. But I'm just kidding. Everybody knows. he said he didn't care, by the way. Just he said you can call me whatever you want, which is super weird. Like you should probably say how you want your last name to be said, but that's what he said.
Well,
So,
then it would turn into the whole Tyrod thing, and he's
right.
like, I ain't trying to get into all that conversation. Just call me
It's
George if you want. I don't care.
it ain't that important. I get it. So he's paid no matter what. He don't care what anyone talks about. Who cares? But the point is, two things are gonna define the Chicago Bears season this year. Matt Nagy/Nagy. Is he a good head coach? Which I think he might be. So far, everything I've heard from them and what he said, like he's saying all the right things. I actually think he's going to be pretty good. I think he might be this year's Sean McVay. I know that's a really, 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 really high bar, and I'm not saying they'll win that many games and go that deep in the playoffs. But from the standpoint of after the year's over, we're going to look at him like we looked at Sean McVay, almost not like necessarily the same, but like he's going to really impress us. I really do think that. And I think as a result of that, Trubisky will have a pretty good year this year. And that defense is going to be good. Like, I mean, it was good last year. And now they got Khalil Mack. So that's just a whole nother can of worms for opposing defense, or opposing quarterbacks. So I think Chicago is a sleeping giant. I really do. Like they're a team that is going to come out of nowhere and beat some teams that nobody expected them to beat, and they're going to go like 10-6. And them opening their season at Lambeau Field with Aaron Rodgers coming back off of a broken collarbone, playing only 7 games last year. Jamie Graham's new to the team. They got some new guys. It's going to be such a good game. I don't even know who to pick. I want to hear what you have to say first, because you might honestly sway me one way or another.
So if I sit here and look at this whole thing, my big question, to me, I think neither defense really sucks. Okay, so let's say they're both average to above average, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's not like you're going against, North Carolina State. No knock to North Carolina State. I'm just saying you're playing an NFL defense, and they're both pretty good. So it's going to come down to me is who do I trust more on the whole offensive side of the ball.
Right.
I got, I'm going to make this short. Both teams have good defenses. Both teams have the players on offense, but when it comes down to it, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers over Mitch Trubisky all day right now.
Right. And it's in Lambeau. Like it's so hard to pick against Green Bay in Green Bay. It's hard to pick against them really anywhere if they're fully healthy and if they've got Rodgers. So because he's obviously it's kind of a big step over Brent Hundley. So
yeah, it is. And they've added some guys, right? They added Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
Right.
They lost Jordy Nelson, should be said.
Right, they lost Jordy Nelson, but they've gained some guys, and I think they've gotten better than they were last year. And I just think I got to take Rodgers over Trubisky at this point. So I mean, to me, it's kind of a, I say this, but to me, it's a no-brainer. But now watch, the Bears are going to win by 40 or something. So what do I know?
I don't know. I don't think it's 40. Chris Collinsworth.
Now here's a guy.
Yeah, he's so funny.
Who used to play for the Raiders, and they gave him up for just 2 first-round draft choices.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't wait for him to talk about the Khalil.
That's going to be the running theme the whole time, and don't even get me started on that discussion. There's
like Aaron Rodgers is going to be down 6 or 7 or 8, down a touchdown, 2.5 minutes to go at home. And Chris Collinsworth is just going to say, well, let's see, Al. Did they give up? Is it even Al Michaels anymore?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because now I'm just doing my Chris Collinsworth and I wasn't even thinking about what's... But, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to see, well, let's see if the trade was worth it if they gave up 2 first-round picks for Khalil Mack. Can he make a play? Can he save the game?
Exactly.
So, it's exactly what's going to happen. And I actually think that's literally what's going to happen, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to drive down the field and win. So I've got the Packers, I don't know, probably 27-24, 27-25, something like that. It's like a really close game. So But they'll be down a touchdown in the fourth quarter. I'm going to say that. And I think he'll bring them back. So Chris Collinsworth will have a wild ride on Sunday night for the week 1. So
his blood vein will pop out.
Yeah. So let's go Monday Night Football. We got 2 games left. Doubleheader, because every year when the season kicks off, they do a doubleheader on Monday night. We've got the New York Jets, Sam Darnold, and the new Matt Patricia-led Detroit Lions. So interesting matchup with 2 teams that are going to be pretty different, I think, than they were the years before, because Sam Darnold looks like a guy, from what we've seen in the preseason so far, that the Jets haven't had really ever,
Yeah.
I mean, can he really be that for, the whole season? That remains to be seen, and he's going to, he's a rookie, so there'll be some growing pains for sure, but he's looked good. He's looked really good. Jets fans are, enthusiastic. I mean, they felt so good with Sam Darnold that they gave him the starting job week 1 over Josh McCown and Teddy Bridgewater, and they sent Teddy Bridgewater to New Orleans, so they felt that good about their whole quarterback room that they were willing to let go of some depth, because Bridgewater's looked decent in the preseason too. So the Jets are going to be a real interesting team this year, I think, because Todd Bowles is still there. He's really coaching for his job, I think, this year. If they
he better be,
he should be. He's had a long leash, a long rope, in New York, and I think if they don't win 8 or 9 games this year, he's probably out, and he may be out with 8 games too. But I think that might be enough just to save him an extra year. Matt Patricia, usually not a bad scoring defense in New England, but pretty much a middle of the road defense overall during his entire tenure with New England. Didn't really inspire a lot of people when Detroit hired him. There wasn't a lot of buzz, and I'm not sure. I don't know what to expect out of a Matt Patricia-led NFL team as a head coach, so I don't know what to expect, but this should be, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, honestly. I think both teams are probably going to score 28 to 31 points, something like that. I think this will be a pretty high-scoring game. I'm going to take Detroit at home because I think Matt Stafford, week 1, will be able to, put up enough points at home to not lose. And I think Sam Darnold, not Sam Bradford. Sam Darnold, he's going to play really well, and I think he's going to give Jets fans a lot of reason to be optimistic. It's just not going to be in week 1. So,
yeah, I got the Lions for a couple reasons. Matt Stafford, LeGarrette Blount, Golden Tate,
right?
Ziggy Ansah,
so good. He's so good.
Yeah, I just think that Darnold, things are going to come. I think you're right about Darnold being good, though. I think he's going to end up being a quality starter. But for week 1, big lights, Detroit at home, I got to take Detroit. I think there will be – I don't know if I'm convinced there will be a lot of points put up, though, because I think both these defenses are also pretty good. But I think that it'll be somewhere in, 24-21, 27-20, something like that kind of range.
That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting it to be over 40 points combined, which I know isn't a lot, but for these 2 teams, it kind of is, because you don't really...
it is what you consider... Both teams are pretty talented on defense, so
right.
That's why I'm kind of giving the edge to Stafford, because he's seen it a bit more. We know he's got an arm, and I just think he'll be able to pull that one out for him.
Well, now that we said this, it's going to be 3-9 Detroit. We're going to get a real defensive game. But yeah.
Okay.
So
the game we've all been waiting for, the last one.
So this is the last game, 10:20 Eastern Time, ESPN Monday night, September 10th. We've got the Los Angeles Rams and the Oakland Raiders. So you want to take this one?
Well, there's a lot of things that have happened over the course of the offseason for both teams, right?
Yeah.
The Rams got Talib, got Marcus Peters, they got Donkey Kong, they got Aaron Donald signed to an extension.
Yeah.
They got a lot of stuff that's going on for the Rams, right? There's a lot of new pieces on defense. They lost Alec Ogletree. A lot of changes going on there. Now on the Raiders side, you got Chucky, right?
Yeah.
They lost Khalil Mack. they've only got 29 guys on the team on the 53-man roster that were on the team last year on the 53-man roster. So there's been a huge turnover of personnel.
Yeah, because of John Gruden. He came in there and he really put a stamp on that roster immediately. He really took out he really trimmed all the fat, everything he didn't like. He started by taking away Marquette King, the punter. He traded away
Drama.
Right, and I'm not saying he's wrong for that. I'm just saying he started immediately. Like, I think that was how long after he got hired did it take him to cut Marquette King?
It actually was a while. It didn't happen until the middle of OTAs.
Okay, for some reason I thought it was way earlier than that, but you're probably right.
I don't think so. I could be wrong about that. I don't want to write that in stone, but I'm pretty sure it was during voluntary workouts and stuff.
Right.
The thing that really happened was that's changed a lot of it is they brought in a new defensive coordinator. Right. And Paul Gunther from Cincinnati. He wanted to get a bunch of guys that already kind of knew his defense because he's got, I don't want to say a special defense. There's a couple other teams that run the same defense, but they wanted to get guys that knew generally how that defense works. So they brought in Leon Hall. They brought in, Frosty Rucker. They brought in a few guys that are veterans that are old. Right. Not going to beat around the bush. They're old. Kept Reggie Nelson, which would have been, if Gunther wasn't there, I would have been surprised if Nelson would have made the team. But since he's been in that system for so long when he was at Cincinnati, he already knows the system. And he's not terrible. He's just not as fast as he used to be. So they brought in a lot of new guys. And then on top of that, the first-round pick made the team. Second-round pick made the team. Third-round pick made the team. Fourth-round pick made the team.
Right.
Fifth-round pick, so on and so forth. Because we got, well, not we, but they got guys that were projected to be first-rounders that didn't go in the first round either because of off-the-field issues or on-the-field issues or heart conditions, but health issues. So they got all these guys that made the team, and it's a complete roster turnover. So we really don't have any idea what we've got. They got rid of Crabtree. They brought in Jordy Nelson, who, everybody says he's just as fast as he used to be, and there's a lot of naysayers. But before Rodgers went down in Week 6 last year, Jordy had already caught 6 touchdowns for 500 and something yards.
Right.
And then Brett Hundley came in, and then everybody's production is going to go down. So we don't really know though. That that's a whole that was a year ago. It could be fall off year, but from everything we've heard, it's not. So
right, like
that's a complete unknown with the Raiders. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Right, because they're one of the most interesting teams to me this year for several reasons, and one of them is because obviously John Gruden's return to football is just interesting in general. Because what's he going to be like? Is he going to run old school football, or is it going to be a little more new school like what we're used to? I mean, they traded for AJ McCarron, so they've got a backup for Derek Carr. They got Doug Martin. They got Brent.
Hey, Doug Martin's on his every third year thing. This is his every third year.
Right, every third year he's good.
So write down 1,400 yards for Doug Martin this year.
That'd be awesome.
I'd be shocked.
They got Jordy Nelson. I think you mentioned they got Brandon LaFell. They still have Jared Cook, who I like at tight end. And then they
leading receiver last year.
Right, and then they got Arden Key, who's I think going to make some noise. And then they also got he's getting older, but I still think he's really good. Derek Johnson at linebacker. So yep. And Gary Conley should play this year, right?
Yeah, he's been doing great in all the off-season workouts. He hasn't missed any. Well, he's missed a couple practices here and there, but there's been a few guys that have missed. They were being careful. They didn't want anybody getting hurt.
Right,
so they were just being careful. But whenever they wanted him to play in a game, he's played and played very well, I might add.
And they've got depth. If I'm looking at the DBs right now, they've got depth in the secondary. They got Gary Conley, Marcus Gilchrist, Leon Hall, Carl Joseph, Rashawn Melvin, Nick Nelson, Reggie Nelson. They got Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, who I'm guessing will start.
Actually, he won't.
Really? Okay, that's interesting. Nope. Who's starting? Conley and Hall?
It's going to be the starting corners are going to be Melvin and Conley.
Okay.
And Rashawn Melvin last year was ranked like a top 8 DB.
Oh no, he's
top
good.
8,
He's definitely
top
good.
8 corner. Well, he's only been good last year. Every other year he's been hurt. So that's the question this year. That's why he's on a 1-year prove-it deal. Are you the Rashawn Melvin from last year, or are you the Rashawn Melvin from the previous 5 years when you couldn't play more than 6 or 8 or 9, 10 games, whatever it was,
Right.
So they're gonna have Conley and Melvin starting at corners. Slot, who knows? It could be Nick Nelson. It could be DRC. It could be Daryl Worley suspended the first four weeks for his DUI bonehead, but that guy also is pretty good too. He could start on most teams, but a lot of teams passed on him because of that suspension. So, and then I don't know. Their whole roster is kind of weird. It's filled with really young guys, some pretty old guys, some guys that didn't play well at all last year on their first year.
It is. Sorry to interrupt. Just so you know, it is the oldest roster right now, NFL wise too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is for sure.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that if you look at our roster, we've got rookie just on defense, rookie, second year.
Right.
And then we got an older dude, second year, older dude. Like fifth year, older dude, rookie, second year dude. Really old dude, second year. Fifth year. So it's like we've got a lot of rookie and second year guys, and then we've got not a lot, but it's kind of weird how it all works out. We got a lot of dudes that are really, really young, and a few guys that are really old, and that drags the average age up. Because starting wise, there's only 3 or 4 guys on defense that are over like 25 years old.
Right.
Everybody else is young.
Right.
So, but again, with that much roster turnover and a new coach, a new coaching staff, and new schemes on both sides of the ball, and this and that, and really the only constants are the interior offensive line and the quarterback and the running back.
Right.
And that's it. Everything else is new. So we have no idea. They could be really good. They can be 13-3, or they could be 2-14.
Right.
And nobody knows.
And that's going to be interesting because they're playing the LA Rams, who we expect for the most part, at least I do, and I feel like a lot of people do, the Rams to basically repeat the success they had last year, if not improve on it. And they didn't really lose a lot in the offseason. They everything that they lost, they kind of improved, because it's pretty crazy. So they lost Trumaine Johnson, who I really, really like. He went to the Jets. We talked about him already. I think you mentioned him.
Yeah.
He's really, really good, but then they got Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. So that's, if not upgraded, it's at least a lateral move of talent. Like, it's still really, really good. They lost Sammy Watkins, but they replaced him with, I think, a better player for sure in Brandon Cooks.
I agree.
Yeah. They got Nicole Roby Coleman, another corner. They retained LaMarcus Joyner. They got Sam Shields from Green Bay, I believe. He was Green Bay. They got Ndamukong Suh. They finally got a deal done just recently with Aaron Donald, so he'll be there. They won't have Tavon Austin, so there's no more of the Tavon Austin show. But I just think the Rams are the better team this one. I think the Raiders have the ability to be very, very good this year, or like you said, very, very bad. I think they're going to have a Jekyll and Hyde season. The Raiders, I think they're going to have some games where they should win, but they won't, and then some games where they should just not win at all, and they destroy that team. So I think they're going to be somewhere in the middle this year, and we won't really know what to make of the really weird first entire year of the John Gruden era of the Raiders in 2018. And I just think the Rams are, for the most part, the same, if not better, especially on defense, like we said, with, Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. So I think the Rams are going to take this one, even though it's in Oakland. It's not too far from home, and I know that the black hole is going to be loud, but I just think Jared Goff is pretty good, and I like him, and I think the defense is going to be good enough that they can stop the Raiders enough times that it won't be. I don't know. I can see this game being high scoring, but I could also see it being really low scoring, because both teams could not accidentally, but both offenses could mess around and get 40 points. They just could. But I think both defenses could mess around and just stop them both to 20 points or 17 points. So this game's going to be so hard to gauge. But I think the Rams, with more stability, and they also got better themselves than they were last year, and just another year of Jared Goff and Sean McVay and the same thing, I expect it to be Rams by probably a touchdown or two.
Yeah, see, you make a lot of valid points about this whole thing. The big question to me comes down to this. If the Raiders can not stop, you can only hope to contain him. If the Raiders can stop Gurley enough to where they force Goff to throw the ball, then I'm pretty confident that they can hold Goff to enough. I mean, all they got is Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods, and I say all they got, but I'm not implying that
it's not Julio Jones or Antonio Brown. I get what you mean, but
right, it's Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods, and then it drops down to Cooper Kupp and Josh Reynolds and Mike Thomas and these kind of guys. So
right, I totally get you.
The only thing about the Rams that scares me is the whole from the center to the left tackle, Saffold and Whitworth and Sullivan. Those guys, those dudes they are not spring chickens anymore. They don't even practice hard,
right?
Because they don't want them to get hurt.
No, and I get that, but that's also why in the 3rd and 4th round this year they actually drafted Joseph Noteboom out of TCU, and they got Brian Allen, the center out of Michigan State. So I mean, they realize that too. So.
Yeah, but
no,
I don't know.
I get that. It's
I don't know,
rookies,
and so I kind of concur with what you're saying, though, right? I agree that it's either the defenses are going to be great, not great per se, quote unquote great, but they're either defenses are going to shut each other down, or the offenses are going to show up, or one team's going to show up on offense and the other team's not.
Exactly, and I think it's going to be the Rams that show up and Oakland doesn't in week 1, and I think we're going to see Chucky early on. I think we're going to see him screaming on the sideline at possibly his own team, but definitely the referees.
Definitely the referees.
And just in general. So I got the Rams in this one. I don't think the Raiders are going to be bad this year. I'm not sure they're going to be really good either. I think the Raiders are going to be about 8-8, honestly, 7-9, maybe 9-7, but I expect them to be a middle of the road team that probably just barely misses the AFC wild card. But
I don't know what they're going to be. I really have no idea what they're going to be.
I really don't either, because they're such a confusing team and nobody knows what to expect. So it's because it's week 1, none of it matters.
Everybody's got a shot,
and we're all 500.
That's right.
So or 0-0-0, whatever you want to call it. But it's gonna be a very interesting game, and one that I'm gonna have to stay up late for, because I definitely want to see how both those teams looks. It's gonna be interesting to me because I expect the Rams to be a little bit better than they were last year, but I don't know what to expect from Oakland, and I want to see. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And I just want to see how Oakland looks against a good team that I consider to be an NFC contender, because if they show up and they play really well, I'm going to be like, oh, damn, okay, Oakland might actually, and then it's going to be an overreaction that everyone that'll make on Tuesday morning, but...
Yeah, it will be with every game, though. Every game, right. Week 1, everyone's going to overreact and say, oh, my God,
right.
The Browns are the greatest team ever. They beat the Steelers by a touchdown. Well, okay, it was week 1. Week 1 is a fluke for everybody. Week 1 is the most dangerous week for every single team because nobody's played a scheme that was really the scheme, right? So when you're in preseason, you're just like, student body left, student body right, and everybody runs around and does your thing.
Right.
Now all of a sudden, everybody's got to pay attention to game plans that get a whole lot more complicated, and that's when you start screwing up.
Exactly. So
I don't know. But one thing I'm telling you on defense that the Rams are going to miss is they're going to miss Alec Ogletree. They are going to miss that guy because that guy
I
is
don't know.
Smart.
He I don't know, because Alec Ogletree was really good his first few years, and then he just fell off. I'm not sure they'll miss him that much. I mean,
they'll miss his ability to get everybody in the right spot.
That might be true. I'm not. That's definitely a possibility.
He's a real smart cookie.
Right.
And I keep seeing that this. I'm looking at the depth chart of the Rams, right? And every time I look up, it says left defensive end, and I keep seeing Morgan Fox, but I keep thinking Megan Fox, and I don't have any idea why. But anyways,
well, that wouldn't work out well for him if it was her.
No, that would not work out. So you got the Rams. I'm picking the Raiders.
Okay. All right. So you.
And that's not a homer. That's not a homer thing either. Because in case anybody hasn't figured it out, I am a Raider fan. But
Right.
I I'm gonna pick the Raiders because
It
I
was when
think
you
if
said
they have
we.
any shot at all of surprising somebody,
Right.
it's gonna be week one. And I think on paper they're well, maybe not even on paper. They're not fairly matched. Offensively, I would give the edge to the Raiders as far as personnel, but defensively, I would definitely give it to the Rams personnel.
Right.
So
And
it's kind of like, is there not as good offense going to score against our not as good defense, or is our better offense going to score against their better defense? So I don't know, but I'm picking the Raiders because they're playing in Oakland, and the black hole is going to be crazy.
well, that it's not a crazy pick, and I respect you for it. Got to ride with the team. So
it's a little bit crazy, but I
it's
mean,
it's not
if
crazy.
we were
It's
playing
at home, and the Raiders
the
are.
Rams week 10, I don't care what we're playing. I'm not picking them unless we were 9-0 at that point. And there's no way we're going to be 9-0 in week 10. But I just think that if we're going to beat the Rams week 1 is our best shot to do it before everybody's got everybody figured out, everybody's got tape on the Rams, right?
Right.
Because they played all last year and everybody knows they're good. Nobody's got tape on Y2 Spider Banana.
Right. So, no, I agree. It's definitely possible that they shock the Rams and everybody week 1 and it won't mean anything for the rest of their season because they could go 1-15.
Yep, exactly.
It's so hard to know. So it's so hard to gauge. So, yeah. So that's our second podcast in the books. We did every week 1 pick. We picked at all the games. We'll keep track of this throughout the year and see kind of at the end of the year how we all did or how you and I both did. Just out of curiosity to see who had a better record and who had who was better at guessing, basically, because there's really no way to gauge it. Even if you watch all the games, there's no way to tell week to week what's going to happen in the NFL because it's just so difficult to be able to predict these things because this league is insane. It really is. So much crazy stuff happens all the time, and we're always like, wow, I can't believe that happened on Monday or Tuesday morning. And it's like, well, you should be used to it now because the league's crazy. So,
just so you know, out of 16 games, we picked 5 that were different.
Okay, so
and if we were smart, we only would have picked 3, but I went with a couple underdog teams.
Right. So no, I feel good about our picks, especially the ones that we agreed on. I'd be pretty surprised if we missed more than like 2 or 3 of those. I know that there'll be some just odd ones, but
yeah.
So I think we agreed on them for a reason, So
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll probably be back probably Tuesday with our next show or Wednesday, one of those 2 days of next week. We're going to talk about basically everything that happened week 1, and just talk about football being back and everything. So does it sound good to you?
Yep, sounds good to me.
Awesome. So this is the 108.1 FNFB podcast. This is episode 2. This will be up probably Thursday before football actually starts tomorrow night, which we cannot freaking wait for. And if you made it an hour and 43 minutes in, then you heard that Mike is a Raider fan. And we talked about no, it's all good. We talked about the Rams and Raiders for probably 13 minutes too long. That's
definitely true.
We talked about them a lot. It's okay though. And so that's the podcast. Cue the music.